So a couple months ago, like, back in September, there's like this weird beef that briefly happened. I don't know if it made drama alert. I kind of stopped watching that show because I don't know why or how to put it, but I think drama alert is just trash. It's like modern TMZ. I don't care what anyone says. It's trash. Drama alert is garbage. But you know, other than that, I'm digressing right now. Okay, so I watched the full exposed video they made on Dawn. Heck, yeah, and I say it's an exposed video, and I think the kids are calling it hit pieces now. So the full hit piece that, Daft Pina and Veritas Joe and I guess Wendy Yoon, that Christian guy they put on the end, I'm sort of thinking, okay, yeah, this isn't criticism. This is like legit a hit piece and, a serious attempt of character assassination too. And, also very, malicious too. Because here's the thing, Don made a point where it's like, okay, yeah, if I don't agree with him, it's like even, if I don't agree with him, I'm a completely different religion and, my philosophies are different and my way of going about life is a little different from him. I do still think that what those two did, bringing up his wife and his daughter and, making quips saying that, trying to insinuate that he's like gonna be abusive to them and this, that, and the other, that was messed up. That was super mean and malicious and that didn't need to happen because I think if they went without doing that and did everything else, I don't think Don would have been as mean with his response as he was in that 3 hour video, essentially. But yeah, that's just me. That's just me. That's just me. I don't think he would have been as mean. And, there's this like thing that a lot of people are criticizing him about, and I've seen other videos on him that have been made, and they like constantly criticize this tweet about him for some weird reason, and I don't know why because I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with that tweet at all, if I'm being entirely honest. So basically, the tweet says, "It is impossible for my daughter to get four-letter R worded," and my thoughts on that is that that's a healthy mindset to have, and I don't get why people are criticizing that. Him saying that, it's impossible for me to not have money in my savings. It's impossible for me to get fired from a job or leave a job, you know, or leave a job under inconvenient circumstances. You know, it's impossible for me to get beat up on the streets. It's impossible for me to go at least one day of the week without working out. No, sorry, it's impossible for me to go yeah, okay, I said that right. Sometimes I kind of just like mix up my word. So it's impossible for me to go one day, to not go one day of the week without working out. Nah, I'm not even gonna cut this, keeping it raw and real and genuine, you know. But overall, I don't think that's a bad mentality to have. Like, if he really does care about his daughter, it's like, yeah, that too. It's impossible for my son to get hurt or to like be hurt in any kind of way. People would want this, and there's nothing wrong with people wanting this in their life. But I don't know. It's like people on the internet somehow are just making it into a fuckery, apparently. And it's weird. It's just weird. And I don't know. There's just stuff that I don't think made sense to criticize too. Like, his weight loss too is like, okay, here's the thing. Props to his weight loss. And I do think they were giving him props to his weight loss in reality, but it was sort of just this weird thing where they tried to make it seem like a bad thing that he lost weight when really and truthfully, no, it was good. You know, he lost weight and he didn't like looking like that, so he did something about it. You know, and that's perfectly fine. You know, he wasn't bullying other people, you know, using that as ammunition to bully other people. He was plainly just talking about himself and how much that seriously improved him and how he just felt better like that because he didn't like looking like that. But, you know, you know how people are these days in the world when it comes to stuff like that, where it's like, okay, yeah, you can't like losing weight. You can't like getting any bigger than you already are, you know? It's so ridiculous, and I think this is what, and it's like very detrimental to the people in the world who just want to be left alone too, and don't want other people to be like them also, because then it just makes them look bad, because you know the other people are, you know, just being super unnecessarily, you know, difficult about the whole thing, essentially. And I don't really have a problem with much of Don's response because I typically don't tend to judge people's character by their political views too much. As long as it's not far right and as long as it's not far left. So, and again, going back to what I said, you know, I think if they weren't making these comments about his family, then I don't think he would have been as mean in that like response video, or wouldn't have even responded to it at all. I don't know. I can't read the guy's mind, but I do get that vibe, you know, from him. But here's like some of the stuff I do disagree with to some extent, with him to some extent. And it's the fact that he sort of did this weird thing where he pulled the race card by saying that, okay, yeah, Daft Pina is a liberal white man, and the only reason he had Virtus Joe join him was because he was scared of looking racist for criticizing a black guy, which I don't even know is true, honestly, and I don't think it is true at all because there, in no way, shape, or form in that hit piece was race ever a topic, you know, and that was it. That was it. You know, but he seemed to, and basically the whole theory about the liberal white man is that inherently a white person who's liberal looks down on minorities and would say stuff like, oh, you're poor because you're black or because you're brown or something, or you can't afford this or you can't afford that. And you know, it's like, and almost in a way where it's like sympathetic but also it's like sort of insulting to, you know, the actual black person's achievements, essentially. And I don't think that was Daft in that video. He definitely did do that with the Christian guy at the end, Wendy Yoon, you know, where he like sort of used the Christian as a sort of thing to kind of possibly get other religious people to hate him too. I do think that was a fact, indeed, and that actually did happen and was true. You know, with, you know, Wendy Yoon being his pawn, as Don said. And, you know, here's why. And I'm gonna like switch it up, and instead of talking about like the liberal white man like Don did, I'm gonna talk about the conservative black man. Now here's the thing with like a white conservative, or like probably any conservative who isn't black. They inherently and in their own way, when talking about black issues, are condescending. I don't care what anyone says. I know I'm not saying they're Nazis, I'm not saying they're in the KKK secretly, or that they want to kill us, but there is a certain degree of an undertone of them being somewhat condescending towards black people, in some extent, to some extent. You know, I don't care what anyone says. Steven Crowder's racist, Ben Shapiro's racist like that. But, you know, in the same way, I would still say Joe Biden is racist, too. And he actually does fit in that, like, liberal white man category, too, where it's like, you know, he actually has said some racist stuff about black people, but nobody thinks it's actually racist because he's viewing it, because people view it as him actually just having our best interests at heart, but he doesn't, if we're being honest. He just wants money. and probably doesn't even know where he is, you know? So here's the thing. Here's the thing about a conservative black man. It's like a white conservative would not want to say anything in the same degree of cruelness or hatefulness as, you know, a black person could, because black people are inherently viewed in a way, and we're sort of expected to be by ourselves and also by, you know, racist white people to be pathological assholes, essentially. You know, and I see this with Don, where it's like, you know, he kind of says, like, he can be, like, pretty cruel when he talks about gay people and, you know, trans people and, you know, people who don't fit, like, the gender status quo, and, you know, that's it. And that's it. And, you know, there would be the white conservatives who will watch this and will clap at this, too, and will feel super happy because it's like, ah, look at that. Because there's like a black person talking about this in a way of cruelness that, you know, a lot of the white people can't speak in, because, you know, if a white person says it, he'll get in a lot of trouble. But if a black person says it, it's like, ah, nah, it's just Tuesday, you know? And even Don's done this before, where it's like, you know, he inherently has admitted himself that, yeah, black people are like supposed to be like the least tolerant towards gay people and religious and this, that, and the other. And I think in the video, the crying experiment that What Would You Do did, he explicitly mentioned that, said, oh, look, it's a black guy. I know he's gonna be intolerant about the whole thing. It's like he's gonna be real and intolerant about the whole thing, you know? So, yeah, you know, the problem with the liberal white man is that even though they may act like they are in the best interest of black people or, you know, minorities in general, they're not, because they end up saying something as a form of sympathy, but really and truthfully, they're actually coming off condescending. And the problem with the black conservative is that they sort of feed off on the idea that, you know, black people are pathological assholes, and the white people just love it, essentially, you know? And that's the truth to me, in my eyes at least, you know? But yeah, that's like the only thing in the video that Don said that I didn't completely, that I had a problem with it, and that was it, really. I don't think he's a bad guy for having this viewpoint at all, actually, because at the end of the day, people are raised differently and live differently. Like, I have a very politically diverse family, so I'm very much like super in between when it comes to my political views, to a point where it's like I kind of don't care about the crap, but at the same time I do, but I don't. You know, it's weird. It's weird. I'm weird. Not really, but yeah, I am. Yeah, but to end off, like, I think when you're debating people or want to have a conversation with someone you don't agree with, like, you know, I think it's best to not view yourself or put yourself in this position where you're this person's enemy and immediately radiate the energy that, you know, you think this person's a bad guy or a bad girl or a bad person or a bad whatever, you know, and just think that, okay, this is just a person whose brain is a bit different and has had different experiences and was raised differently, and that's it, really. That's all it boils down to, you know, why people's political and religious views are different. And I think it's something we shouldn't necessarily be at war with too much, if we're being honest. You know, and I think Don, to some extent, would kind of agree with me on that point. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't read the guy's mind. But yeah, that's it. How long is this video? Like, almost 15 minutes? Cool. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.